Hello and welcome to this short video from Twinkle Phonics South Africa, where I try to demystify the literacy report card for you. Let's unpack some of the specialist terminology that you might find a bit confusing. Remember that all written language is a code for spoken language, and decoding is like learning to crack the code of written language. It's about recognizing the letters and using their sounds to form a word. To decode words, children need to understand the relationship between letters and sounds, and this is known as the alphabetic principle. And if your child is struggling here, they may need more exposure and more time working with phonics, which is the building blocks of reading. If your child is struggling to blend and segment words, that has to do with the ability to put individual sounds of words together to form a word, which we as adults mostly do automatically now, and also the ability to hear the separate sounds in words. So paint would be p, a, n, t. And this obviously has implications for spelling because you need to hear all the sounds in order to represent them in print. If your child has poor phonemic awareness skills, that involves the ability to hear, to recognize and identify, and to manipulate the smallest units of sound in a word. And that is inherently linked to reading and spelling. And if you want to know more about that, you can listen to the second training webinar, which is all about phonemic awareness and phonological awareness. Now, phonic knowledge is the store of information that you have about how words are spelled. In other words, how you would write a sound or how a sound in English is represented. Now, this is where the complexity of English spelling comes into play because there are so many different ways to spell one sound. Look at this phoneme chart, for example. It gives you an idea of why it's sometimes so difficult for learners to remember which spelling pattern to use when they're writing words. And of course, their level of phonic knowledge will depend on what they have been exposed to in the classroom. Phonic knowledge is, of course, also used when reading because it involves understanding the sounds that letters or groups of letters make and being able to read those sounds. We all know that the English language is a little bit complicated when it comes to spelling, and irregular words are words that have funny spelling patterns that we usually don't associate with a particular sound. They are words that we cannot sound out. For example, come or friend. We don't say friend when we read the word friend. So this is an irregular word. What is a digraph? Now, if your child is struggling with digraphs, they are struggling with pairs of letters that make a single sound. For example, AI making the sound A. You also get trigraphs like IGH making one sound of I. And all of these unique spelling patterns need to be internalized by our child so that they can read them and use them when spelling words. We often think of reading fluency as the ability to read at a good pace and to read smoothly. Now, of course, this means that your decoding skills that we discussed earlier need to be quite automatic, and this really assists a child in reading fluently. Comprehension, on the other hand, has to do with the ability to understand and, in many cases, interpret what has been read. And in fact, what we are looking for is that equal measure of understanding and fluency, which results in reading comprehension, skilled reading. Hope that was helpful. If you'd like more in-depth information on any of the topics we've covered, please look for our phonics training webinars on the Twinkle Phonics South Africa webpage. Goodbye.